end. He's got the outside line for the second part, and he can't hold on.
Going the long way around. We're going to be 3 wide for the lead as they all come to the line. Who is going to take it in the end?
And here comes Lockwood. He's going to make the move to the outside. Quinn tries to force it off a little bit, but there he goes. It's going to be side by side through turn 1.
Will he be able to cover him off? He does. Weaving back to the left-hand side. Reynolds is trying everything. The kitchen sink is being thrown at it.
They're leaning on each other. Coming into turn number 3. It's going to be a drag race through 3 and 4. Coming back to the line. Here comes Frisch on the bottom.
Bouchard's going to hold the inside. Tries to be the late breaker here. They're going to be side by side through the final chicane. They bang doors, but keep it clean.
As they're still 4 wide on the run down into the back straightaway. Demerit's looking for a line as well. What is going on in Michigan?
Novak into the fence. They're still beating and banging. And to the line.
He is much faster coming through there. Is there damage on Challenger? Abramitis is ahead. There's going to be a race to the line. Who is going to get it?
Well, we're back. Race 7 of the 12 race Pony Express GT3 Challenge League. Welcome in. This is the Wet and Damp Road America. I'm Rob Campbell. This is Race Nexus. In the booth with me this evening, Stephen Kurdick. Stephen, well, second race of the season we've covered here for the Pony Express GT3 Challenge Racing. And last week we went to Adelaide where it was sunny, dry. The drivers had to battle the track. They have to battle the track again here this evening, but different conditions. They're not going to be battling the tight confines. It's going to be Mother Nature out there.
It's going to be a wet and wild circuit, that's for certain. The drivers having to really think about what they're going to do with lots of standing water, especially on the apexes, and also the rivers that do flow on by. Drivers are going to have to consider their options. Where can they get the pass done? Where can they get on the power around the 6.5 kilometer circuit, 4.0 miles long? It is an absolute treat to come to Road America. However, this circuit will cause some very, very difficult situations, especially heading down to the Marine Sweep, the Hurry Downs, and the Carousel being the main tricky parts for all our drivers. It's all about throttle control and all about trail braking to make sure you stay at the top.
Oh, for sure. It's going to be interesting to see, as you mentioned, coming down into turn 5. It's tough at the driest of times here, Stephen, especially if you're trying to overtake a driver. You get that sand trap out onto the right side. The track just kind of curves a little bit to the right, and it's kind of blind coming down that hill. It's not out of the realm for a driver to drop a tire off into the sand there and just kind of snap hooks around. So our driver's going to be really wary of that in the rain here this evening. But why don't we take a look at our drivers' points coming into this one? We've seen the GTD Pro side. Terry Cowker Jr. takes a commanding lead after winning last week in Adelaide. Nick Terrell in second place. Paul Skip only 10 points back from him in third place. Ryan Tyler and Alex Velasco going to round out our top 5 with Adkins, Branch, and Brothers running out the top 8. How's it look over in GTD AM?
For our GTD AM, it is Justin Togdeno who holds the top of the charts, with Brad McCombs out in his Honda NS6 holding on for second. Joshua Saxey holds on for third, with James Foreman, Troy Banks, Brandon Dimitter, Daniel Bonnet, and Corey Schalzer holds on for the top 8, but is tied with Daniel. So do expect a very close fight within our GTD AM class. And while the drivers are in 2 different classes, they're not afraid to go and mix it up between one another as well for an overall outright win, as we do see our Acura out on circuit. Still a big fan of Brad's car. I'm always a big fan of the Acura, and honestly, it's just getting better and better to see it out there. But now having to try and utilize that car in wet weather, you got to be so careful not to have it go like a surfboard and slip and slide all over the circuit. Does make it a little bit tricky out there.
Yeah, let's see Brad tiptoeing around the circuit here. See those puddles starting to build up into the braking zones. That's going to be something they're really going to have to contend with. It's tough in qualifying, Stephen, with those puddles. You know, you're only one car on track. You don't have the rest of the field going out there kind of dissipating the water off the side of the track. Where you really got to try and work your way through that yourself. But let's take a look at the schedule. As I mentioned, we're into week 7 at Road America. Next week, we're going to head to the Nürburgring, the Gamstreck VLN layout. I can't remember off the top of my head if that's one of the Nordschleife layouts or if it's the GP layout with without the stadium section or not. But either way, that's where we're heading next week. And then we got Watkins Glen, Circuit of the Americas, Imola, and Road Atlanta night race, extended night race to round out the season. So a lot of great tracks still coming this way. And I believe if I remember correctly, I think it's either the 11th or I think it's the 11th is Memorial Day weekend in the States. That's actually going to get pushed back 1 week. Either that 11th or the 18th. I can't remember which one is off the top of my head, but we'll get you updated next week to let you know which one that is.
Always wonderful to see a calendar like that. A great mix of hard driving circuits, but at the same time, you've got to be quite technical. Now, for the drivers currently experiencing the weather conditions around Road America, for those that haven't actually been around it, you're going to have to take more of a go-karting line. Stay wide and just avoid those apexes for a bit where it all pulls in with water. Unfortunately for Alex Velasco, found what happens if you try and break in the water. Aquaplay into the wall, and the sand pits aren't going to stop you either. Now having to redo it all again. So far, though, it is Alex Velasco who holds top of the charts with a 2-minute 22.1. Matt Barber holds on for second place, 0.2 of a second behind, with James Foreman, who we kept an eye out for, lies in third place, leading out his class in the GT3 AM. Paul Skip holds on to fourth with Gerald Lowry. Wes Amrick, who was on a solid charge, is now in sixth, as Joshua Saxey, unfortunately not able to get a good time around the car, going and landing up with a bit of a spin, trying to come up down the main straight. It's uphill, and you literally got a river coming back down towards you. So a couple of drivers are going to have to really think about their options and their positionings of these cars. Doesn't look like the weather is going anywhere, and the drivers are going to have to really figure out where can they get this top pace and what is it going to do, especially when it comes to fuel stops a little bit later on today.
Yeah, they are limited on fuel, 40% fuel, and I had a look. They do have 2 fast repairs for the race, which with the weather conditions that we're seeing out here tonight, Stephen, and we had a look at the radar coming to this one. It's basically 98% chance of rain throughout the rest of the hour-long race here. So our drivers are probably going to have to dip into those fast repairs more often than not here as the race goes on. So just to give our viewers an idea at home of how diminished the lap times are in the rain, our pole sitter 222.1 right now. A normal fast lap in GT3 around Road America is somewhere in the round 2-minute flat, 2-minute 1, depending on the track temps and the time of day. So it just kind of gives you an idea of how much slower it is here in the rain, having to deal with those puddles and the finding the alternate lines there, Stephen.
Also got to talk about some portions of the racetrack itself is getting a solid bit of rain, while other sides of it is not. And that's the one thing that we got to love about the iRacing rain setup, is you can have rains on different portions of the circuit where it can be a little bit harder in some places, others can be bone dry. But unfortunately for our drivers, if you're not on the money and you're not able to keep that solid drive, you will be falling down the order. However, we do have a number of drivers that haven't been able to get a lap time on the board, and that is from 12th all the way down. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 cars thus far that have not been able to put a time on the board and will miss out on qualifying, leaving our top 11 to go and get themselves sorted. A 222.1 by Alex Velasco will be rounding out our pack as qualifying is out of the way, and we look forward to our race coming up in just a few moments.
Yeah, let's take a look at the grid we got here this evening. Stephen, Keith Roycroft Oh, hold on here. We are a little ways down in the grid. Let me reset that. There we go. On row 1, Alex Velasco going to take pole with Matt Barber to his outside. Row 2 is where we're going to find James Foreman and Jason Brothers, a pair of Porsches. In row 2, row 3 is where Paul Skip and Gerald Lowry, the first of our Mustangs, to start in 6th place. In row 4, we're going to find Wes Amick in P7 with Joshua Susi in P8. And right out the top 10 is going to be Justin Tarragona in 9th and Stephen Sharsley in 10th. We got here in row 6, Steve.
Well, we've got Ryan Javine holding on for 11th, followed by Nick Terrell in his Porsche. A little bit further down, Ryan Tyler versus Sean Atkins, who will be looking to gain some valuable points. Row 8, we look to Terry Calgo Jr. along with Brad McCombs in that Acura. Stephen Maynard and Ryan Stone hold on for P17 and 18. And row 10 is Keith Roycroft and Aaron Cohen holding on for P20.
And round out the field, we're going to find Jordan Branch and Troy Banks, a couple of drivers who did not qualify, starting at the back. So we'll see how they're able to move up through the field. Jordan Branch, I think, had a nice run through the first half of the race at Adelaide, and unfortunately a little bit of attrition for him. He got wrapped up in an incident and fell back a little bit. So we have some drivers with end-of-line penalties here tonight. Stephen, our top 3 from each class last week at Adelaide will have to serve end-of-line penalties, meaning they have to start at the back of the pack. That's Terry Calgar Jr., Ryan Tyler, and Nick Terrell in the pro category. And then on the AM side, Brad McCombs in that NSX, Stephen Maynard and Daniel Barnett. Those 6 drivers will have to start at the back of their respective classes. And looks like we got the field on the grid here this evening. Stephen, short pace lap. Not a whole lot of time for these drivers to get the tires warmed up. So they're going to have to really take it easy here once we head down the front straight into turn 1.
It's all about just taking it easy, taking breath, not wanting to push these cars too hard. Give yourself at least 3 laps to get the rhythm and ensure that you are close to your competitors. But at the same time, you don't want to be in some hard-going fights. We saw what happened at Adelaide. The moment you nose to tail and you're trying to force a move, you can land up in more trouble than you actually want to be in. And with 2 different classes out there, you've got to figure out who are you actually racing against and who you are now needing to just avoid at a rate of knots. For James Foreman, he's got to keep an eye out for Joshua Suksi, but also he's getting mixed up with a bunch of our GT3 Pro drivers. As the drivers make their way up towards the start-finish line, it's line astern, side by side. Who's going to be first on the gas as we wait for the green? And we go green flag racing. Alex Velasco trying to open up with Matt Barber, not going to go and lose out any drive. Heading down to center circuit, the spray starting to kick back from all these cars. Makes it a little bit blinding, but it is going to be Alex to get his nose in first, with Matt Barber around the outside, in through the puddles, able to keep it all together. No one leaving each other's side at this stage of the game. Everyone just trying to tiptoe. Unfortunately, as I say that, there's Gerald Lowry pointing in the wrong direction, now trying to get himself going. And a little bit of a slow go as the driver's trying to navigate around him. He's got a bit of damage to the right-hand front of his car. Paul Skip into the grass, just going and checking if all the birds are okay there. But Paul Skip, a championship runner, now having to rejoin at the back of the field.
Yeah, unfortunate first lap there for a couple of drivers, but it looks like both of them were able to keep it off the wall. Steven just going to lose some positions. Oh, I see that. You're right in behind last week's winner, Terry Calgar Jr. Looks like we saw a couple of cars get wrapped up. One of them was that Mercedes. I believe that was Ryan Stone, the Better Water Technology BWT car. Just got loose heading into turn 5 and unfortunately couldn't get it wound up, Steven.
And also, I think I saw Paul Skip that went and completely missed his brake marker and went straight on. So let's quickly take a look. This is Paul Skip. He was come barreling down that long straightaway, hits the brakes, 360, no scope. Oh, solid impact against tires. And that is a Chevy that went to the levee, and unfortunately, it was dry.
Yeah. Absolutely. There's a look at Ryan Stone. Oh, unfortunately, he collected up the Corvette. I think that was Aaron Cohen. Yes, it was. Doesn't look like a whole lot of damage on the back of Cohen's car, so unfortunately some positions lost for them. But while that was happening, Steven, we had a change for the lead. Matt Barber has moved himself up into top spot. Alex Velasco has fallen back down to 6th, got himself back around Brad McCombs here, but let's see if we can find what happened to our pole sitter, Velasco.
Joshua Suxi also tumbling down in the order, now into 8th place as well. And for an early start to the race, there has been a few casualties to this rain. Alex Velasco trying to keep it all together. A little bit in the puddle on the right-hand side, just at the rear, kick out underneath him. Slowly comes to a stop, tries to bring it back. I would give that about a 7 out of 10. It was a good turnaround.
It's 7 out of 10 from the African judges. We got a battle shaping up front, though. James Foreman has quickly caught up to the back of Matt Barber and challenging the Porsches. Steven, usually a car we see work well in the rain with all that weight over the rear axle. They can get onto the throttle a little more than some of the other cars. Front engine cars with all that weight on the front end, they really struggle with the Mustang, the Mercedes. You know, they have all that weight on the front end, not much weight on the back end. It's hard for them to get down into the throttle out of the corner, and we see Foreman really late on the brakes, using the prowess of that Porsche to get ahead of Matt Barber and starting to open up a gap here quickly.
Well, another thing to point out is now we've got a GTD AM car leading out against a GTD Pro. And it's something you and I spoke about last week. Don't count out the AM drivers. They are just as quick as our Pro drivers. A little bit in terms of pace difference that the AM drivers fall down, but in terms of pace, well, they can be right up there. Wes Amrick, unfortunately, bad luck following suit yet again for the Mustang. Originally was charging at the sharp end of the order last time out and had a few nightmare moments. It looks like all happening again on a very wet circuit. And oh, solid impact, front right suspension getting a nasty knock. Unfortunately, that's going to be a slow go back to the pits. Ryan Tyler, however, still trying to pick up the pace, lying in 4th position. He's got Velasco trying to chase him down. The 777 not going to make it any easier as they're trying to keep somewhat on the racing line where they go around the circuit. However, it is extremely slippery out there, and none of these drivers have got the tyres up to temp as good as they want them to be. It's going to take roughly about 2 to 3 laps before they can get a hard push and feel, okay, I've got some grip here. As you can see, Ryan getting skittish on the final corner. It's 18 degrees track temperature, which is rather cold. It's going to be overcast, so don't expect the water to go away anytime soon. And each of the drivers now need to think, what do I have to do to keep on going? This is now not just about a race of how fast you can go. This is about survival, and also if you can keep the mental concentration to stay at the sharp end of the field. The last thing you want to do is throw away your championship too early on in this race. You want to see it through to the end and see where exactly you can have a great run. But a couple of new names there fighting out for the sharp end of the field. Stephen Charsley in the Porsche, a beautiful retro livery towards Super Mario Brothers, and going and holding on for 3rd place overall, 2nd in the GTD Pro class, and is just minding Tyler behind him, and Velasco just going and folding in those mirrors and wanting to get his one up to carry on the drive.
Yeah, he probably wishes he had one of those Mario power-up stars right now, Steven, so he could just charge up through the front. But that old 8-bit Mario paint scheme, I love it, love seeing it. Oof, see the drivers just laying the back end out there. Velasco really letting it hang out. Kind of surprising. We've seen him go off track once already. We know he has the pace. He put it up on pole, but it's a long race here. He might be best served here to back out a little bit, Steven. He is only, what is he? Only about 5 seconds back of the leader right now, so no real need to push. Long race, still 53 minutes to go in this one. And we should mention that you probably see some different lines than we're used to seeing as far as the race line. That's because the drivers trying to stay off the racing line. That's where the rubber gets built up in the dry conditions. And when it gets wet out, that's where it makes it really slick. It's tough to brake on those sections. Same with the painted areas of the track and the curbs. They get real slippery. You see Velasco looking to the inside of Tyler here now, trying to make that move into 4th place.
Going, and gone. Unfortunately, You also note that the drivers will try and pull out of the slipstream every so often just to try and see their braking marker as that thick spray comes across into the front windscreen. It's the last thing you want to do is get caught out by not being able to see much. Now Velasco's got the top end speed. He can get right in behind for the slipstream. Looks down the inside line. Alex looking to try and get ahead of Tyler as they go down the straight. It is nose to tail. Question is, who's going to be last of the late breakers? It's going to be Alex Velasco, who manages to get it in and a little bit skittish on the exit of turn 1, but managing to move up into 4th place, and now needs to start trying to close up to Charles Lee a little further up the road as well. Unfortunately, we have had a couple of cars that have gone towards the pits and haven't come back out. Paul Skip, one of the championship runners, being exactly that, unfortunately now needing to get sorted out, so he is out of the running. Justin Togdego, Troy Banks, Jordan Branch, those are the drivers that unfortunately are not going to be seeing the end at this stage of the game. Here's Jason Brothers as what happened to our Porsche. So he just got unsteady under braking, tried to save it, tried to bring it back in towards the sandpit, but with no damage on the car, able to rejoin.
Yeah, and Wes Amick coming down into turn 3. We saw him have that incident into turn 5 not long ago. Going to lose the back end of that Mustang again as it goes around. So we're seeing our drivers really struggle out here, Steve. It seems like into the braking zones, really losing the back end. I wonder if maybe they're running a little too much rear brake bias, as we're seeing Ryan Stone getting squarely into the braking zone there too as well. That can happen. You get the brake bias cranked too far to the back, using a little too much braking back there, lock up the rear end. It starts to get wiggly. That, oh, we got a Mustang off. That was
That's
our
Barber.
leader, Matt Barber, into the wall.
Matt Barber into the wall, and now just trying to reverse back to see if he can get the car back on track. A bit of a weird one. Oh, swings across the nose. Gonna have to wait for the field to come through, and oh, bit of a nightmare case scenario for everyone just seeing a Mustang lurking around. For Matt, it's now just keep it all together, but everyone having to get off the racing line to just mind out what on earth happened to Matt. Did he get a little bit too confident and just have the rear spin out on him?
Yeah, let's back it up a little further, see what happens. Looks like into the kink, Steven. Coming in. Oh, he snapped around on him. Ooh, that's a heavy hit on the right side.
Unfortunately, didn't quite turn out to what he wants, so he will be certainly looking to go in the pits. But that moves up James Foreman for the first time up into the lead, with the likes of Stephen Charsley in second, who's getting a bit of pressure from Velasco behind. Ryan Tyler behind him. So new names up towards the sharp end of the field. And so far, for an early run in this race, we have seen a few cars taking a bit of strain as they try and continue the momentum. Hardest charger, however, has to go to Brad McCombs, who sits there in the Acura NSX, and he holds on to 5th position, up 11 places from where he started. That's the main thing about racing in the rain. It's about consistency. How can you keep it all together? How far are you willing to go? And where exactly can you make up time? This is a race of nutrition. It's all about trying to stay alive, trying to just hit your marks every step of the way, and not worrying about how fast you are, how much you're closing up to competitors. It's rhythm. That's all you need to do. You lose that rhythm, you're into the dirt. And so far, it's been proven key every step of the way, as 1st, 2nd, and 3rd of the GT3 Pro cars are all on the back of one another, and they're fighting for 2nd, 3rd, and 4th.
Yeah, I want to give a mention here to Ryan Tyler, who was one of our end-of-line penalty servers here. Steven started at the back, finished up in 2nd place last week in Adelaide, and we kind of saw the same thing at Adelaide from him, where the start of the race he kind of hung back a little bit, didn't really battle. If somebody came up to him, he kind of let them by, worked his way through the race, and that's at the end of the race where we really saw him starting to charge up towards the front and work his way up into that podium position for 2nd spot. So we saw him kind of let Velasco go a little easier a lap or two ago. just kind of following in behind him. I wonder if, again, he's just trying to find the lines here, just kind of feeling his way around the track, knows it's a long race, still over 45 minutes to go in this one. Just kind of feeling it out. You got to get to the checker flag to have a chance at a win here tonight, Stephen. And by doing that, you got to stay on the track.
It's a long race and it's a long time, and also drivers fighting out for the fastest time, as we do see Stephen guarding, try to go for the inside line, couldn't quite work it out as Velasco was able to put his nose forward, leaning on that Porsche just a little bit, trying to see if he could close the door. Stephen having to just back out and just get right into the rear bumper, seeing for any option, and currently just getting a huge kick up of spray in towards the front, and now just having to mind out the gap, trying to see where on earth can he find his brake mark as they head down the hill. It's going to be a hard braking zone for both the Porsche and the Mercedes, but Stephen leaves the door open, and there we go. A good overtake coming in as Ryan says, thank you very much. I got another position, and now time to go. Stephen, unfortunately, left that door a little bit too far open and lost out the drive, and that's going to allow Brad to start closing up the difference at the moment. He lies second of the GT3 AM class, and he's hoping to catch up to Foreman a little bit further up ahead. So James Foreman has checked out from the fight, but now it's going to be for Brad to just keep on the solid battle. Now, we did see James Foreman last time out, was one of our top runners. Unfortunately, fueling became an issue for him and landed up falling down the order rapidly, and now having to try and claw back some of the points lost at Adelaide. He's hoping that Road America will be the track to help him out. Nick Tyrrell also on a stellar run at the moment. He's trying to get around Mr. Cowgirl Jr. and, well, not going to be an easy one. Sixie also involved in the fight, getting a little bit loose all the way through.
Yeah, nice save there by Jordan Susi. I thought for sure he was going to snap around, but what a battle here between Cowger Jr. and Nick Terrell. So two of our three podium finishers in pro as well as overall last week at Adelaide, battling it out here tooth and nail for 6th and 7th place. These guys don't look like they realize that there's 45 minutes left here. Stephen, they're going to battle it out now. They're not really giving much space, not compensating for any net code here, using the painted area as well as the curbs. So Nick Terrell feeling real confident out of that final corner. He uses the curbs, uses that white line, and he's going to take that spot away from Terry Cowger Jr. So we'll see if Cowger can find a little bit of pace here in behind Terrell, as he's doesn't look like he's real apt to stay back there, already challenging for that spot again here, Stephen, into turn one.
Trying to find out that little bit of pace, and just the overhead shots, especially with it being in the water. Got to say, the Lumo green on the nose of the Porsche does look a bit like the Borat costume of if you just take a look at it. But at the moment, having a good bit of fun with Nick Tyrrell. You'll never see that car the same ever again, I can tell you that now. Nick Tyrrell, however, just managing to get his car a little bit ahead, and now trying to push it a little bit harder, holding on to 6th place at this stage of the game. Will need to do everything he can to hold back Terry, who is on a solid run, and just trying to play a little bit of catch up.
Yeah, the Porsches look like they're starting to come into their sweet spot here, Stevens. We're seeing them start to move up closer and closer to the sharp end of the field, as we got here 5 of them now in the top 8, with only a couple Mercedes and then our lowly Honda NSX of Mr. Brad McCombs.
Now, Brad going and having a stellar drive out there. Now working on rhythm. This is where you're not working on how far or how close you are to a person. It's like, right, what can I do for consistent lap time? What am I going to need to do to ensure that my lap times stay exactly the same, and slowly tick away all the boxes, knowing that you've got 43 minutes left in this race, knowing that you still got a pit stop to play with. When are you going to be able to get it done? As Jason Brothers going and diving into the pits to get himself sorted out. He was in 15th position, now dropping his way down the order. We'll have Matt Barbaro to come past him. So Brothers going to see it through into the pit lane. That Porsche does sport a little bit of damage to the nose. As you can see, a slight crinkle, pretty much a crinkle cut chip there, and a few others visiting pit lane. Alex Velasco holds on second place with Tyler on his tail. The battle of the Mercedes still rages on, but James Foreman checked out by nearly 6 seconds up the road, going and leaving these two to brawl out with one another. And every time Alex and Ryan can't get a move done, that allows Stephen Charsley a chance to catch up and also put his nose in forward as we jump on board with Ryan Tyler. Once again, leaning to the right-hand side, trying to spot where is his braking mark, because the last thing you want to do is lose out that little bit of critical sight, especially on the downhill charge. Late on the anchors, and looks like Velasco holds a very tight line through the left-hander, runs out a little bit wide, and Ryan coming back at him at a rate of knots, hard on the brakes, slings it through, couldn't quite get it done, and has to try and slowly feed on the power. Everyone tiptoeing at this stage of the game, no one really getting the upper edge, and no one really going and throwing the cars down the inside. Everyone just a little bit more nervous this time around and hoping just to get these cars a bit closer towards the end of the race instead of going and binning them too early on.
Yeah, as we see these two drivers fight it out for second and third place, Stephen, last time by, both of them were quicker than our leader, James Foreman. So we'll see, even though they're kind of elbows out a little bit here, battling on track, Velasco pushing it a little bit, starting to open a gap over Tyler. We'll see if they can continue putting in quicker laps than our leader. Maybe James Foreman might have to find a little more pace here as the race goes on. But as you mentioned, right now, sitting comfortably 6.3 seconds ahead of this battle. But if we go back a little farther, Jordan Susi now is on the back of Terry Cowger Jr. as Nick Terrell is kind of pulled away from this duo once he got by Cowger. But Susi, a little bit damaged on the front end of that car. We saw him have that spin early on. So he's on a little bit of recovery run back to where he qualified. Actually, he's our only driver right now, Stephen, who is in the same position he qualified in. Everybody else is either moved up or moved down.
And a big move for Cowger that needs to actually go further up through the field to maximize points, being a little bit too far down for his own liking and sitting just in 5th position in class. Needs to try and identify what does he need to do to make it work, as James Foreman comes across lines, does set the fastest lap time of the race with a 2:19.4. There is a little bit of a dry line forming ever so slightly that the drivers are able to utilize, and they can pull themselves along. The question is, the tires aren't going to fade away too quickly, and drivers are needing to really concentrate on those mandatory pit stops. How many of these drivers are going to be going and switching out their tires? And I've got to ask you, Rob, on that one, because if the conditions remain where they are, I think we're not going to see tire changes. We're going to see a little bit of a fuel stop, looking if the tires are about 70%. If they're there, keep the tires on for the rest of the race, and with everyone pulling in with about 25 minutes to go in this race.
Yeah, definitely. With the cooler track temps, as you mentioned earlier on, Stephen, and these wet tires, it should be able to keep the tread on them a little more. Now, if we were running, somewhere upwards around the high 20s, low 30s for track temp, and it started to dry out, you'd really see those wet tires burn off quickly. But as long as the track stays somewhat damp, or they can find a wet line there to cool those tires off, I think you're right. I think they should be able to get to the end of the race on this one set of tires. But you know what? Let's hop on board with our leader, James Foreman, go in the cockpit, and let's take a look and see. It looks like the rain has subsided right now on the backside of the track, at least, as we don't see the wiper going. We don't see any water building up on the windshield. So I'll have to keep an eye on that, as if the track starts to dry out, then maybe we'll see somebody risk that, taking the tires once we get to about the halfway mark of the race.
You can also see the minor correction work he's having to do in the car just to keep it pointing straight. James Foreman in the Halloween colors for Rexy, and showing what it can do. And for Foreman, this is a great run on his part, not only because he's leading the GTD AM class and leading overall, but also looking to have a dominating lead before needing to get into the pits. And that has been a crucial moment we saw at Adelaide, having that little bit of spacing to get yourself into the pit lane, get yourself sorted out. Thankfully, this pit is a little bit easier to get into, but does have one single catch: trying to slow the car down enough that you don't suffer a penalty on the way in. And many drivers in the past have overshot the final warning of where you have to have the pit limiter on and land up with penalties because you are going absolutely guns blazing out of the final corner, traveling up the hill. As you get over the crest, you got to be on the button, backing it off to about 60 kilometers an hour.
Yeah, the pit lane here, very deceiving, very deceptive. It kind of lulls you into this false sense of security, Stephen. As you mentioned, it's kind of uphill, and you feel like you can really drive it and push it to the last limit and hammer on the brakes, use that incline to slow yourself down. But I've lost track of how many times I've been in a race and I've been in a battle with somebody. Next thing you know, you hear on the radio they've announced they got a 40-second stop and hold for speeding into pit lane, and that's been the end of their race. Very good point there to point that out. Some of our drivers really have to keep an eye on that, especially with these wet tires. That pit lane, Stephen, nobody driving on it, it's going to be a little slicker than the rest of the track.
Going to be an absolute nightmare, especially if you're starting to filter in. Let's take for Ryan Stone at the moment, and as we see Gerald going and losing out. Gerald going and losing the rear end of the car, nearly having a Mercedes check up on him, and not going to be a happy camper on that one as he tries to restart and get going. Wes Hamrick getting past him, and now for Gerald, it's trying to pick up the pace. Started in 6th, and now all the way down into 14th position. Not going to be happy on that one. Will be scratching his head on what he needs to do to stay at the top running order. Alex Velasco, however, continues his charge. 5 seconds adrift from Foreman, but has got a little bit of spacing between himself and Tyler at the moment as James Foreman diving into pit lane. 36 minutes to go and just managing to get it hooked in as he barreled his way through. Alex and Tyler deciding they're going to get the pit stops done and dusted. Quite a few of the drivers seeing what's happening and going, hang on, I'm not going to get the undercut here. I'm not going to allow the guys to get an undercut. And everyone filtering their way through, trying to get it done and dusted. Joshua also climbing through, but the only driver that has opted not to go through, and that's Nick Turrell. A interesting move on his part, trying to go for the overcut around the entire field. And let's see how this is going to work out for him, because next drivers to come through would be Keith Roycroft sitting in 11th position in his Mercedes. And, well, for Nick Turrell, feeling that he can go there a little bit longer.
Yeah, we'll have to keep an eye on that. We saw Nick last week at Adelaide was able to push it a lap or two longer than the rest of the field too as well. So he's got that fuel-saving touch down here, Steve. We'll see if it works out as well from this week. As we saw, he tried to only do the one stop last week, really had to save fuel to the end of the race and cost him potentially the win at Adelaide as he fell behind Terry Calgary Jr. and Ryan Tyler via the having to save fuel in the last couple laps. Just couldn't battle with them at the end, and that he still got this podium position, but it cost him potential win in round 6 at Adelaide. So we'll see if he employs the same strategy here again this week. We know most of the field, actually everybody, as I just mentioned, except for Nick Terrell, had to come in for 2 stops last week at Adelaide, and now with the rain conditions, they're going to save a little bit of fuel. They're not pushing those high speeds on the straights here, but with most of the field coming in with 35 minutes to go here, Steven, I suspect they're going to have to maybe get a little more splash here towards the end.
The only thing I can think of for Nick Turrell is through the long right-handers, long left-handers, and the downhills, you're going to have to just keep it in high gear and lift all the way through. Just allow a lot of lift-off oversteer to come and get you through the corners, but also just to try and coast that little bit more. It's maximizing his revs, and there is that major lift before he gets into the corner. Not going and driving the car hard, nose first into the corners, lifting from a yard's back, trying to save 0.1 to 0.2 liters of fuel every step of the way. If you can do that a good couple of laps in a row, it is going to help him out. Especially in these conditions, it will be a lot easier just to lift and coast. The only thing you got to make sure is not to run into a world of hurt, as we do see Nick Turrell saved a little bit of fuel, diving into the box. Is it going to be enough, though? 28 seconds separate him and Alex Velasco for the lead. Nick hoping that it has been enough, but Alex closing down at a rate of knots. The Porsche will have to be rather quick in and out. The team will have to keep a very close eye on it, as here comes Alex who's absolutely charging his way up through the order. He's got Tyler on the back of him, and he's also got Stephen Charsley will be getting on by as well. So Nick Tyrrell tried his luck, unfortunately rolled the dice, got snake eyes, and has to now sit behind our leader, Alex Velasco, Ryan Tyler, Stephen Charsley, and Nick Tyrrell now managing to get the car going. But will he be out to hit Brad? Not a chance. The Acura up through the order, and here comes Terry Calgo Jr. that will be on a stellar drive, can't quite get past, and unfortunately gets the nose chopped off rather early.
Now, it looks like something happened to our leader, James Foreman here, Stephen, coming out after his pit lap, or his exit lap. But I just want to notice something there when we got a look at Nick Tyrrell still in the stall. It looks like the car was up on jack stand, so I think he might have took fresh tires, so I have to keep an eye on how that works out for him. I am showing that he is still running the wets, but it looks like James Foreman might have tried switching over into dry tires. I think it was a little early for that. I think he had a couple incidents where he went off track, so we'll take a look at that here and see what happened to our race leader.
All going well. Now going and having a difficult time. Parked on the left-hand side. Very fine line. Oh, geez, that just stood on the anchors into the wall. Aquaplay and damaging the nose of the car. Managing to get back onto the circuit, and another burnout, another donut. I would give that about a 4 out of 10. With the 666 not going and having the best time out there. Slowly got to feed the power on, and unfortunately from our leader that was doing oh so well, now suffering a bit of damage, and I do think a bit of front suspension damage as well, as he now has to navigate his way back through the pits. Gerald Lowry also in pit lane, going and having a difficult time. Nick Tyrrell trying to close up to Terry Calgo, and now seeing if he can try move up into the top 4. For Nick, it's game on till the very end. 31 minutes to go, and drivers giving it that final push here at Road America, down through the gears, seeing who can carry the momentum up through, and it is just a proper sideways moment for Tyrrell, trying to catch the car every step of the way, trying to keep the car in check. Track extremely greasy out there, and for everyone out on rain tires, it's going to start to get a little bit warmer. For anyone out on slicks, it is a nightmare. I don't think any of our drivers have opted to put on a fresh set of slicks at this stage.
Yeah, James Foreman drove back to the pits, and he went back to the wet tires, Stephen. He tried the dries, and we saw what happened to him. Unfortunately, the track conditions still too wet for those dry tires, so he took a gamble from out front, but you know what? He's still in 11th place. Potentially, he could chase down Wes Amick, get himself back into the top 10. But you know what? I don't know if I was leading the race, if I would have took that gamble. I think if I was going to change the tires, I probably would have put another set of wets on. But it does look like the track's starting to dry out here, Steven, but I'm not seeing a dry line develop yet, so it's still still a little moist for those dry tires.
One thing I prefer to do whenever getting a driver trying to spot out when can I get onto a dry set of tires is taking a look at the rooster tail coming off the cars, off that rear diffuser. If you see the rooster tail starting to be rather thick, you're staying on wet weather tires. The moment it starts to dissipate and become a lot smaller, that's when you can start to consider those having the slicks on the car. So just with the big rooster tail still lurking around, it's still wet out there. You know there's big patches that you've also got to be aware of. I'd rather go in with my wet tires, let them overheat a little bit, just as you can maintain somewhat of grip. Otherwise, you've got too much of a fine margin to play with, and drivers are going to be very aware of those fine margins. Considering we're so close to the end of the championship, you don't want to make critical errors like that. You don't want to be the driver losing out crucial points on gambles on whether to stay out on wets or dries. And when you can see the rooster tail that gets a lot thicker in certain parts of the circuit to others, rather just keep those wet tires on, see it through to the end, and just manage one's pace. And also, if you feel the tires are getting a little too hot, search for those puddles that are lurking around.
Yeah, as you mentioned, the points championship, let's take a quick look as James Foreman on the AM side. It came into this one only 60 points back at Joshua Susi for 3rd place and only 70 points back of Brad McComb. So potentially a massive error there in a pit stop choice for Foreman to put the dry tires on. Now, the opposite, if it would have worked out for him, it would have been a big galaxy brain move, as he would have absolutely started dropping lap times by 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds a lap compared to the rest of the drivers on those wet tires. But you know what, hats off to him for trying the different strategy. But you know what, we are actually starting to see a little bit of a dry groove building up there, Steven. So I wonder if any of these drivers might short pit this time, come in a little earlier and switch those tires out.
It's going to be depending on time. If they keep running the clock down, if it gets within 15 minutes, I don't think it's going to be an option to get a change of tires, because remember, that's about 30 seconds to swap out the tires and on a short fuel. So the drivers are going to be concentrating on getting us through to the end. There is spots of drizzle in places as well. There's still big puddles on the corner exits and entrance. It's a very fine line. If you do decide to go out on dry tires, you're going to be running on the knife's edge. You've got to hit your marks absolutely perfectly. And then for anyone that isn't too sure about it, if you're not as confident with it, rather stay out on the wet, especially this back section. You need to have as much grip as possible to try and keep going. You can see how much of that spray is still coming up from the cars. It's not dry enough out there to go onto a set of slicks just as yet. You're going to have to just let the cars try and dissipate it a little bit more. But so far, fastest lap time of the race has been set by Alex Velasco with a 2-minute 19.1 and still keeping a solid charge. Nick Tyrrell, however, starting to get a little bit of time. He's got Terry Calgo in front of him, and Calgo not going to be caught out at this stage of the game. The two Porsches trying to keep it nose to tail, and right behind them, Ryan Stone in the Mercedes, hoping to close up at a rate of knots, swinging the cars out as they're on the last section before we head onto our main straightaway. And it's just all in the drag race, all in the slipstream, pulling yourself along. And at the moment, who has got the drive? It is a fixed setup, and drivers now have to work purely on pace. They have to know what they are capable of. There's no way of going and saying my setup's better than yours. You're going to have to concentrate on keeping your pace up till the very end. And right in the background, we see Brad McCombs, who's 6th position and first in his class, starting to draw the rest of the pack in. Little by little, he's been holding in the wings, been holding on to those coattails, and now seeing where he can make a plan, holding up 10 positions from where he started. It's not one of our hardest of charges. That's going to Terry Calgar and Tyler, who are up 11 positions, but don't count out this Acura. Slowly but surely, every little fight that's gone on, he's just brought himself a little bit closer, looking to put himself into a top 3 circumstance.
Yeah, Brad with a nice, comfortable 13-second gap over 2nd place Joshua Susi in class, and then Steve Maynard, another 35 seconds back of him. So comfortable lead right now in AM class. No real need for him to really push the envelope here, Steve, but you know what, he looks comfortable in that Acura. We don't see much Acura use anymore. It was popular when it first came out on the service. It was the car to have, which is very common with iRacing. Usually if the new car comes out, it's a shiny new toy, everybody wants to drive it. It gets that little bit of extra BOP from iRacing that they never admit that they do. But just in front of Brad, looks like Ryan Stone went off track. We saw him trying to chase down Calgar and Terrell a lap down, but fortunately for him, he's lost it through the carousel. But as I was saying about McCombs here, comfortable lead up in the AM class. Comfortable here, no real need to push it, but no doubt if Calgar Jr. and Terrell come to blows, he'll gladly take that position up in the top 5.
Slowly but surely, you got to try and tick your way across. Velasco under pressure as Tyler now going and running right underneath his bumper. There is no room between the two. Ryan looks towards the outside line. It's going to be last to the late breakers, too far back to make it work, hoping that Velasco runs out wide. Ryan trying everything he can, looks for the inside line. Can he get it done? Second guessed it, decides no, can't quite get past as yet, but will keep showing that nose forward every step of the way. These two drivers, hammer and tongs at the moment, and after a street circuit race last time out, here on a old school race circuit, it's all about momentum. Let's see if Ryan is going to be able to get it done on the downhill. Late on the anchors, got a little bit squirrely under braking, but just can't find a gap to get past Alex Velasco, as they both starting to catch up to a couple of back markers. Jason Brothers is going to see these two coming up in the review mirror, and no one wants to be boxed in too early. And take a look at Ryan, absolutely hunting left and right, trying to just put his nose forward. Alex going and fighting him, holding the middle of the circuit, going and saying, you're not getting past me, buddy. You're going to have to wait, as Ryan now gets a better drive, swings across, and then change up for first place. Ryan Tyler now leads out the field with Alex Velasco right behind him, but they're going to have to try and clear past Jason Brothers and Wes Amrick ahead of him. Those two are also fighting for position.
Yeah, these two cars, the last two on the lead lap, and definitely it's a bit of pride that you want to finish on the lead lap. They, as you mentioned, they got that battle going on amongst the two of them. A couple drivers that have had a little bit of an adventure here tonight, Stephen, but they've still found themselves on track, and they are battling it out for 11th and 12th, just outside the top 10. They've got James Foreman about 37 seconds up the track from him. What could have been for James, he pushed the envelope, tried that wet dry tire strategy. I think right now he might have had a little more luck on it, but as you mentioned, it's still a little wet on the back half of the track, through the carousel, through the kink, and down the straight into Canada corner. And those are the highest speed portions of the track other than that front straight. You know what, you really need as much grip as you can heading into those brake sections. But you know what, right now I'm looking at the track with about 20 minutes to go. I think I would take that gamble, Stephen. I'd pull in, I'd go for the wet tires. If it works out for you, you know what, that it may be 22 seconds, I think, for the tire change plus whatever it is on and off pit road. You know what, if you can make up 5, 6, 7 seconds a lap, you can click that back, that gain on the losses for that pit strategy fairly quickly.
It's a risky move, though, because you've really got to have a lot of trust in the car and a lot of trust in yourself to maintain that pace, and also a very fine line. We do get to see that dry line, but you get a wheel over too far, you outbrake yourself, you straight back into the water, and that's going to cause a few problems, as both our Porsches now trying to find any wet patches. Nick Turrell just in the slipstream of Terry at the moment, as both drivers trying to find whatever's going to cool the tires down, and also where they can carry the momentum through a couple of lifting and coasting moments as well, as they're trying to save some fuel. Currently fighting for 4th and 5th position. It does look like Nick's got the drive up the hill, over the crest, got the inside line through the left-hander. Nick Turrell now gains a position up into 4th. The question is, can he handle the pressure from Terry behind him? Terry's not going to make this any easier. Mr. Calgar is not going to be one to take this lying down. He doesn't go and hold at the top of the run for no reason at all. Gets past one of our back markers, Jared Lowry, who unfortunately has had a nightmare case race. Still 13th overall, but just hasn't quite had that top 10 and that same pace he had last week at Adelaide.
Yeah, unfortunately, a bit of an adventure for the McDonald's car of Lowry, but still sitting in 13th place. Just trying to, as you mentioned last week, Stephen, if you see the green flag, you got to see the checker. Do you get those points? Because every last point may affect your championship standings. You never know what week is going to be your worst week and what one's going to be a drop week. So it could be at this point in time, you could be thinking this one's going to be my drop week, and next week you come out and you get taken out on lap 1, and you wish you would have finished this race here and got those points.
That's it, and a few people wondering if they got the grimace shake included as well. Ryan Tyler trying to move forward, and he's got Velasco trying to close down the gap, as we do see Stephen Charlesley into the pits, getting himself sorted out. That's going to promote Nick Turrell and Terry Calgar Jr. up to 4th position. So Stephen opting to get that final splash and dash done now, and hopefully going to get the one-up mushroom to get a little bit more power underneath him. Up on the jacks, it's going to be a tire change out versus anything. So a big move coming into play. Will he be swapping onto dries to go and see it through to the end? Is that going to be the star power he needs to charge his way through and become that bullet bill from the back to try and catch up to Ryan Tyler out in the front?
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on that, see if he's the first one to go for, I guess he'd be the second one to go for that strategy after James Foreman. I'm having a look here, Steve Maynard, who came in early on, one of the last cars on the lead lap, he has switched over onto the dries. So our Corvette driver here in the Bucky's machine, he is on dry tires right now ahead of Wes Amick. So we'll see as he's heading into that sneaky little section where we saw Foreman go around earlier on those dry tires. He seems sticking to that dry patch in the center of the track, which is fine on the dry tires. But as you mentioned, Steven, it's when you try and make the move around another car, you got to dip out onto that wet section with those dry tires. That's where it gets a little dicey into the unknown.
And as you saw it there, slowed up quite a lot as he's trying to keep the car in check, not wanting to caught out, allowed Wes Amick to get by. And now our leaders are going to be hunting him down left, right, and center. Two big, burly Mercedes AMG GT3 Evos coming at you, and they're going to be filling up the mirrors left, right, and center. All that you're going to be able to do is hold on for dear life, keep an eye on the mirrors, and not get caught out. He moves to the right-hand side, and that is right into the puddles, absolutely cooling the tires down, freezing them on the way through. Not what you want to have. And I would rather prefer for the guys on wet weather tires to be doing their lines into the wet, and I hold my dry lines, just try and preserve some heat into the tires, as it is a bit of a gamble. And you can still see the standing water on the apexes as drivers doing everything they can. Nick Turrell dives into the pits as he's getting his final pit stop done and dusted. 16 minutes to go and 27 seconds right here at the Pony Express GT3 Challenge, round 7. And our drivers having a ton of fun out here, as it is going to be a great one. And take a look over to the race in Nexus grandstands, drivers and all our crews having a ton of fun out there. The petrol heads out in full force here in Road America and cheering on the incredible fighting action. Ryan Tyler leads out the field. He's got the 2 on the car, but he's looking to try and make it a 1 by the end of the season. He needs to keep on a solid drive with Alex Velasco in the 777 going straight off into the dirt, pushing harder and harder, and it looks like the rear's not going and getting as much grip as he would like. Wes Amick though, black flag, and that is him turned round. That's going to be for incident points picked up and a drive-through for him to go and get done.
Yeah, unfortunately, the Red Bull car are going to have a little more of an adventure here tonight, Stephen, but I can report Nick Terrell has put dry tires on that Porsche 911. Stephen Charsley, he changed tires, but he went with another wet set. So we'll see here how that works out for those 2 drivers. Both of them driving Porsches. They're both on track, only separated by about 6 seconds now, those 2 drivers. So we'll keep an eye on how that battle shapes out. But at the sharp end of the field here, Ryan Tyler unable to pull away from Velasco. He had opened up about a second and a half at one point in time here, Stephen. Well, Velasco slowly worked his way back in, putting a ton of pressure on the end of, or on the back end of Ryan Tyler. At what point in time do you think we might see these 2 drivers pop in for their final splash of fuel?
I think it's a waiting game at this stage. Everyone on both sides trying to see who pulls the trigger first. You know, the moments that you're looking at each other, the whites in each other's eyes of you do it, no, you do it, no, you do it, until eventually the fuel gauge decides, and while you're both going into the pits. That's what I'm taking a look here. So keeping very close to that dry racing line, and is helping out Tyler a little bit more comfortable. Velasco, unfortunately, going out wide. It looks like his rear is just not going and coping. Also, the fronts have fallen away underneath him. The understeer becoming worse and worse. If anything, I do think Alex Velasco will be pulling in this lap to try and get himself sorted out. He is losing time, hemorrhaging it badly compared to Tyler. Maybe from overdriving the car a little too hard at the start, and maybe going, get the car sorted, get back out on track. But that's only if Tyler doesn't pit. if Tyler pits, he might want to go one extra lap to see if he can get rid of that undercut.
Yeah, I think he nailed it right there, Steven. We saw he had that incident early on in the race, fell back from the lead to I think it was the 7th or 8th place at that point in time. As we can report, Nick Terrell, one of our drivers with the dry tires, has went off track, potentially had a crash. We'll take a look at that here in a second. But you know what? I think as I said, I think you nailed it with Velasco. Really had to push, trying to get himself back up towards the front, and you saw he was getting loose. And I think you nailed it there, Steven. He's burned off that right rear at least, and possibly the left front, really pushing the envelope through these fast corners of the carousel and the kink, where you're really going to heat up those tires, especially the wets.
And just going and gutting them down. Let's take a look at the replay for Nick Terrell. Out on dries and trying to keep the normal racing line. Unfortunately, he gets kicked out as he spins out, trying to bring the car to the stop. Keeps it flat on the gas, gets himself in towards the dirt. Now having to pick up the pieces after that one. Still trying to get a little bit closer to the normal racing line. Unfortunately, there's still a bit of standing water out there. The driver's now in a bit of an odd transitional phase where there is a dry line that you can utilize, as we see Ryan Tyler pull into the pits, and that's going to allow Velasco as well to dive into the pits. The dry line is there, but it's still a little too greasy if you haven't got the confidence in those tires, and you can't keep to that main racing line, as you will be trying to push a little bit harder. Terry Calgary Jr. will also dive into the pit lane. Will Brad McCombs be able to do that as well? Gerald Lowry gets into the pits, trying to get himself sorted. So it's a last minute stop right now with 11 minutes and 40 seconds to go. It's all or nothing. Whatever happens now, whatever set of tires you're on right now, means that you are on this set till the very, very end. You got to make peace with whatever you take. Velasco coming out of the pits, and so is Ryan Tyler going and getting himself done and dusted. We talked about it. We said you're going to have to make peace, and well, these drivers are about to make peace with that very, very fact. Who is going to have enough in the tank? Who's going to have enough to push it as hard as they can? And also, what are the tires going to look like?
Speaking of tires, I think the race win is going to come down to tire strategy here right now, Steven. As I can report, Alex Velasco did not change tires. He did not go with new wets. He did not go with new dries. He's still on his original set of wets. Ryan Tyler has switched over to a set of dries, currently sitting about 10 seconds back of our leader Velasco with 10 minutes to go. It's going to take Ryan Tyler at least 2 laps to really get those tires up to temp, with which point in time that gap's going to continue to build between Velasco. He's going to need to gain back at least 3 to 4 seconds a lap once he does get those tires up to temp to have a chance to get back onto a top step on the podium.
This is going to be a hard call for anyone, and a very fine knife's edge for both sets of tires. If you stay on the racing line a little too long on that dry line, you will destroy your wet weather tires to pieces. If you're on dry tires, a wheel off at any stage of the game will instantly cool them down and have you spiraling into a wall. With 9 minutes and 50 seconds to go, our top drivers looking to put on a phenomenal show. And honestly, I don't envy them at all. To make a choice to go for this is going to be a tough time. Now, I do want to point out a driver that is out on dry tires. Nick Terrell has set the fastest lap time of the race with a 2:16.5, 3 seconds faster than our front runners. Nick Terrell has found the grip and now has got the tires within temperature and is making some proper headway as he gets around Brad, leaving him dead in the water. Take a look at that, nearly 0.2 of a second separation between the two. And Brad, who's still out on the wet tire, Terry Calgary Jr. trying to move forward, and big impact coming in. We're just talking about Nick Terrell, and so far, that's what happened. Commentator curse. Please feel free to send your complaint through to Rob Campbell on that one. Oh man, a nightmare. nightmare case scenario, ran out wide, and there we go. Once again, it's just going offline. That little bit, it can throw you into a world of hurt.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you start to get a little overconfident, Steven. You're starting to find that extra bit of grip on those dry tires, and you forget just for a second that, you know, the track is a little damp offline, and we saw Nick Terrell really trying to take advantage of that, and unfortunately around he goes with Terry Calgary Jr. on the dry tires too as well, but he is about a lap or so less time on those tires than Terrell, so he's trying to get them back up to temp. But Ryan Tyler up ahead now in second place. He's starting to eat into that gap now of Velasco. It got up to about 12 seconds, and now we're seeing that quickly coming down here as Ryan Tyler has those dry tires up to temp. But as long as he can stay on that dry line and not having it like we saw just happen to Nick Terrell, I think he's got enough time to potentially chase in Velasco on those original set of wet tires. And once they get to this point, Steve, once they get so hot, so much pressure built up in them, they just feel like a slick tire. Like, just feels like you have no grip. It almost feels like, you know, you're driving on a wet tire, you're trying to find that wet spot, you're on the wet area of the track, but it's just too heated up. There's no tread left on that tire, and he's going to have to try and nurse it back as best he can.
Well, take a look as a good show as Jason Brothers. He's a lap down on a dry set of tires, and he's actually having to lift off quite a bit to try and allow Alex Velasco to keep moving forward. So for Jason Brothers, he wants to clear on by. He knows he's got a bit of pace and got some grip underneath him, and is staying right on the back of our leader, also going and looking if he can try and clear past up into fifth gear. We'll be heading towards sixth, but take a look, gaining, got a lot of time, looks to get right behind him and forced to lift off the throttle. And our leader, once again, now starting to think, was it the right choice? As so far, Jason Brothers on a dry set of tires, a lap down, will clear past him and continue on the race. This is a difficult call. There is a number of drivers still out on wets for the last 6 minutes of this race. Alex Velasco, Stephen Carsley, along with Brad McCombs and Keith Roycroft, Aaron Conan, and Paul Skip, who are on wet weather tires. But the main runners that are still out and going, they're still pushing themselves out, and on the lead lap is Brad and Alex Velasco, Brad McCombs, and Stephen Charsley, going and trying to make that little bit of time. But the dry line is starting to form more and more out there, getting more and more comfortable. And take a look, 4 seconds now starting to turn towards 3, as this might be Ryan's chance to put himself up into first place for a last mad dash down to the wire. Rob, we've seen this before. You can be the quickest, you can be a top runner quite easily, but if you cannot make the pass happen, you'll have to settle for that little bit of silverware instead of gold.
You nailed it, Steven, and I think we can just see off in the distance there now. That's Alex Velasco up ahead as Ryan Tyler, you can see on the screen there, running almost a full 5 seconds quicker last lap by, so I think it's only a matter of time before he catches Alex Velasco and takes away top spots. We saw these 2 different tire strategies here to the end. Unfortunately, it looks like Alex Velasco might have chosen the wrong strategy here. You know how I feel the worst for Steven is James Foreman, our leader up until that first pit stop. He gambled, tried to go to the dry tires a little too early. He would have waited to that second stop and kind of stayed out there on the wets. I think this could have been his race, but we can't talk about what could have been. It's only what's going to be here between these 2 up ahead.
Always got to have a guinea pig in the race, and that's sometimes you are the scientist, sometimes you're the guinea pig, and unfortunately that time around was the guinea pig. But now our leaders fighting it out, and take a look at the closing speed. Ryan Tyler catching up to Alex Velasco, going and saying, how's it? Ryan Stone with the black flag for a drive-through penalty, unfortunately picking it up through the order. And a simple dropping wheel off the track every so often will go and impact you. But take a look, Alex dead in a straight line, and it is going to help out Ryan to take a solid drive on the dry and opens up the distance. Alex Velasco could do nothing but try and cool his tires down. Can't fight back at the moment. 3 minutes and 45 seconds. Alex Velasco is going to be hoping just for some stray puddle to be around, and that Ryan goes and meets that stray puddle that is out on the circuit somewhere, somehow at this stage of the game. Otherwise, his chances of a victory is fleeting seconds by seconds.
Yeah, unfortunately, if this would have been a 56-minute race, Alex Velasco would have taken the win here tonight. Steven, well, I shouldn't write him off yet. We still got that 3 minutes to go. As you mentioned, you never know what kind of puddle might be lurking around the next corner for Ryan Tyler or any of these drivers still on the dry tires. But you know what? How about hats off to Brad McCombs in the Honda or Acura NSX, still on the wet tires, still commanding lead over the AM class, although it is starting to close, only 14 seconds ahead of Joshua Susi, who switched over to the dry tires. But I think Susi, unfortunately, going to run out of time to chase down Brad McCombs. So all Brad has to do is kind of nurse those tires the best he can. You see him searching for the wet part of the track here, Steven, try and cool down those tires any way he can.
Now, a bit of bad Brad out on track, going in the Stealth Bomber livery and just having a ton of fun out there. The only Acura in the field, and as you pointed out, everyone wanted to be in this car until they've decided it's just not quite for them. The very few drivers that could actually get to grips with the Acura don't switch away from it. They prefer the car, the way it handles, the way it drives. Also, the lawnmower engine sound doesn't phase them. But another good fight out on track, as we do see Terry Calgo Jr. fighting it out against Nick Tyrrell, and the two of them come to blows. And unfortunately, the Pony Express getting a little bit of TV time on that billboard, but unfortunately not quite the way they wanted to have it. And Terry now down the order, not going to be too happy on that one, and will have to try and pull his way back into the field. Let's quickly take a look at what happened. Our blimp a little bit too high in the sky. It's going to be Nick down the inside, try to get the pass a little bit understeer, clip the rear. Not enough to cause major damage, but it's enough just to point you in the wrong direction and allow the field to come on through. Not an easy time out there. Nick Tyrrell up into third place now, as he got past Stephen Chansley without any issue at all. Nick in the dry tires, Stephen on wets, and once again you're starting to see that pace from the dry tires heading towards the end of the race. The only certainty in motorsport, in sim racing, is you're going to climb out of your rig, you're going to get yourself sorted. Whether your car is in pieces on the trailer or if it's all put together is unknown. But at the end of the day, you're looking to score points. A number of drivers have struggled to get across the line, a couple of drivers retiring early on, but still these pros and AMs out on circuit showing some great display of talent in some difficult conditions. They've gone from a light rain to greasy conditions, now to a dry line forming up as we head down to the final 20 seconds. And Joshua Slixie, unfortunately, a drive-through penalty for him as well, as he will have to go and visit the naughty corner. Our stewards making dead sure that you can't go and push the limits a little too far with 10 seconds left on the card. And it looks like we're going to have one more lap for Ryan Tyler to get it done and dusted. One single lap for him to enjoy the victory, and this is going to be a great run. One car we haven't spoken too much about, Sean Atkins, currently in 7th position and out there in the Chev trying to get a little bit closer to Brad.
Yeah, Atkins just kind of been out there staying away from everybody else, trying to avoid the carnage here, Stephen. It's slowly working his way up through the field. We see McCombs going to move wide, let him through there in two different classes. Looks like Terry Calgary Jr. into the pits. Not sure if he got a black flag for incident points or some damage there, but if we go back to that incident between Calgary Jr. and Nick Tyrrell, you know, I think that we have to chalk that up to the conditions here today, Stephen. Is Nick Tyrrell was trying to stay off that curbing on the inside, knowing it's still a little wet, where normally he would go over onto the curbs and get himself as much track width as he can. And Calgary Jr. just running the normal line there. If it was dry, I think both those cars get through there clean. but unfortunately they had that little bit of contact, and you know what, I think more or less it was just a racing incident, and I chalk up most of it just to do with the track conditions and trying to stay off the curbing. As our leader now, Ryan Tyler, in through the carousel for the final time, one more time through the kink, down Canada corner, and he will have this one chalked up on his win belt.
An absolute brilliant charge for Ryan Tyler, opening up a 16-second gap to Alex Velasco, who fought it out left, right, and center. Unfortunately, the wrong tire coming into play. Nick Turrell will be holding on to third place ahead of Stephen Chansley at the moment. But Ryan Tyler can be absolutely happy on this one, because not only did he fight his way from the back of the pack, he's up 12 positions from where he started. He didn't get the fastest lap time of the race, but he will be seeing the gold. He will be the car crossing the line, winning out in the Pro Division, and overall for the GTD class. What a drive for the Pony Express GT3 winner. That goes to Ryan Tyler. Alex Velasco fought it out till the very bitter end. The 777 will come across the line in second place here at Road America. A no easy feat there, and a hat-off run. Nick Tyrrell comes across in third place. Will be smiling ear to ear and getting some good solid points for his championship, while Stephen Chansley will be having a stellar run there. At the moment, Brad McCombs trying to keep it all together. He allowed Terry Calgary to get on by, not wanting to fight it out, because Brad on the charge. All he needs to do, a couple of corners, will be taking the victory in the GTD AM class. And once again, the Acura going and scoring points, going and being that little consistent car up in towards the sharp end of the field, and will be more than happy to say, I've done it. This has been my opportunity, and will be a winner in class on a set of wet tires, not on dries. And well done to Brad McCombs, who finishes 7th overall, first in class. Stephen Minnow going and making up some headway, will take second place in the Chevrolet. He kept consistent, kept it all together, and not getting involved in any major impacts. Now will come across the line, take second place, maximizing his points for the run, followed by Joshua Suxi in third place as he fights it out. No, he gets beaten out by Foreman. Foreman right at the line caught Suxi. James Foreman right at the line had the drag race and beat out Suxi, who I think was lifting a little bit there.
Yeah, I wonder if maybe Suxi had a little bit of an issue with fuel. Let's take another look at that here. We'll go to the chopper cam. You see Suxi, yeah, he was definitely, I think he coasted to the line as Foreman caught him really quick. There's nothing Suxi could do. He was just a passenger at this point in time, Stephen.
James Foreman, from going and leading out the pack, well, he's still got his podium, and call it as close as it can be. My word, what a race out there, and what an incredible time.
Oh, for sure. Hats off to all of our drivers there that got to the checkered flag. They had to deal with some tough conditions there, Stephen. And you know what? It was interesting. We thought it was going to rain the whole way through. We saw the rain stop about halfway, and that really kind of put the strategy into it, whether the drivers were going to switch to dry tires or wet tires. But you know what? Brad McCombs is going to take that little Honda NSX back-to-back wins here in the AM category. Ryan Tyler getting to the top step this week. Only got to the second spot last week. Had to settle for second spot behind Terry Calgary Jr., but he's going to take a top spot in the superiority here at Road America.
I am so glad you're finally admitting it's a Honda. But let's take a look at our GTD Pro. Ryan Tyler wins out ahead of Alex Velasco, Nick Turrell, Stephen Chansley, along with Sean Atkins in top 5. Terry Calgary Jr. in 6th, followed by Jason Brothers, Gerald Lowry, Wes Amrick, Matt Barbaro, and Paul Skip in the 11th position. Jordan Brunch, unfortunately, going and ending up in 12th position. Hottest charger was Ryan Tyler, up 12 places from the start.
And over to the AM side of things, the NSX takes the win. McCombs back-to-back wins. Stephen Maynard in second place, and James Foreman what could have been for him. He still salvages a podium position in class, so I guess all in all, Steven, you can't let the tears run for too long at the end of that one. But Joshua Susie going to come home in 4th place, just lost that spot to Foreman at the line. Ryan Stone rounds out our top 5 in AM. Roy Croft, Cohen, Jeevan, Tardogna, and Banks all out early on in this one. So better luck for them next race at Nürburgring.
Incredible race. And I do know there's a couple of drivers wanting to come and have a chat to us. And Rob, who do you think we should bring in first from our classes? Who do you think is going to be the one to have a chat to about these cold, wet conditions?
Well, let's see. Who do we got here? We got Ryan Tyler, our race winner. Let's bring him in here to catch up with Steven Gernick.
Ryan, welcome to the commentary box. And how does it feel to walk away with the victory and picking the right tire at the end to get you all the way to the top? I mean, that must have been an incredible run for you.
Oh, that was a great race. Yeah, my crew chief came on the radio and said that Nick did a 2:16 on my pit-in lap, and I was like, yep, gonna have to go on to dries here. So yeah, definitely took the right decision. Had a little fumble on at turn 3, but got him back up to got him up to temperature, and yeah, catched air, caught Alex up in a couple of laps, and yeah, got lucky with that one. That was a good race.
Now, it seems like you and Alex are more than happy to duke it out with one another. We've so far seen it 2 races in a row. What's your game plan to try and keep that big blue Mercedes behind you and to try and keep going for the golds to maximize your points? Just got to keep on pushing. Kind of a little bit aggressive coming through the field in past races. This race was a little bit calmer, but Adelaide last week definitely had to take a few extra charges as chances to get through the grid through the field a little bit. But yeah, just keep it consistent, make no mistakes, and see where we end up here. And for you, what was the hardest part of this circuit in these greasy, wet conditions that you personally felt like, if I don't get this right, this is going to hurt? Oh, the kink on wet tires, I was hopeless. I didn't know which way around to do it for the first half of the race. Managed to learn a bit from Alex of yeah, you can go for a bit quicker through there, but I was just so nervous on the exit for 30 minutes of that race. But as soon as it dried up, it was a lot more drivable. But yeah, it was good stuff. A huge amount of excitement, that is for certain. Well, Ryan, before we let you go to enjoy the celebration, anything you want to say to all the drivers and teams here at the Pony Express and to all the petrol heads out in the Racer Nexus channel and going and cheering you on to the very end? Yeah, massive thanks to Terry Kroger. He's done a great job with looking after the league with Mark's absence. The league seems like it's growing. We've got a good bunch of drivers here. We've got drivers, me and Terry were talking about the other day, but we've been driving together for 4 or 5 years, racing against each other on a Monday or Wednesday night. So yeah, it's a good community. Great to have you guys on board. I watched the broadcast back last week, and fantastic job. And yeah, let's see where the championship ends up. Absolutely wonderful stuff. Ryan, congratulations on your victory in the GTD Pro and also victory overall. Stellar job. Thanks, guys. You're awesome. Keep up. Ryan Tyler going
race winner. Yeah.
Absolutely great stuff. But you've managed to catch up with Alex Valesco, who managed to score 2nd place here.
Good. Yeah, absolutely, Alex. Welcome into the booth. We saw a little bit of a different strategy between yourself and Ryan Tyler in that final pit stop. Did you have it set in your mind heading in that you were going to stay on the wets, or were you second guessing up to that point?
I did not have a decision at that point, and I thought, well, there's only 10 minutes to go. I could stay on the wets, and I wouldn't be gambling anything. And what I could do is, if I was on dries, I'd be gambling. I might go a little bit faster, but I would lose time in the pits from changing the tires. So I thought I'll just stay on the wet tires and see what happens. But there was a 5-second difference per lap, so that kind of caught me off. And Tyler just had way more grip than I did, and he caught up real quick.
Yeah, it seemed like once those dry tires really got up to pressure, those drivers really to push the limit as long as they stayed on the dry patch. So a couple of drivers try and swap to them early on about mid-race. James Foreman, who was leading the race for the first half, went to those dry tires, and unfortunately it was too early for him. So he's in the category of what could have been. But we head next race to Nürburgring. How are you feeling about heading in there with your Mercedes, kind of taking it to the homeland?
Question on that: is it the full track, the Nordschleife, or the GP?
They have it down as the VLN Gamstrek. So off the top of my head, I can't remember if that's the full course or if it's one of the shorter ones. I have to do a little research, but it is not the it's not the GP layout. I can tell you that.
I'm looking forward to it. I got a lot of experience under my belt there. Hoping to see if I can keep it out of the wall though, because hopefully it's not wet.
Yeah, we hope for no rain there, but it could be sunny on one side of the track and complete downpour at the other end of the track just for the sheer size of it. But before I let you go here, Alex, anybody want to give a shout out watching at home, cheering you on?
Just want to shout out to Racer Nexus for helping us out broadcasting these races, and Ryan Tyler, man, he was in front of me. We were battling for the entire time. I appreciate his drive style. So shout out to Ryan Tyler. Anyway, catch you all on the next one.
Excellent stuff. Take care, Alex, and hopefully we see you battling at the top when we head to Nordschleife. Take care.
Thanks.
Well, Steven, let's finish up the pro side with Nick Terrell, and then, you know what, I'm going to let you go back to back and talk to Brad McCombs about the Honda NSX and his win in AM class.
Well, let's have a chat to Nick Terrell. Nick, congratulations on a third place here tonight. How are you feeling after that?
I felt fortunate enough to finish third after having a couple of spins and early judgment call with the dry tires and stuff. So yeah, I'll take it. Kind of like last week where I had to kind of salvage things. This time I had to kind of just push and run it out to the end best I could.
Now, take us through, how was it out on circuit from the start? It's ice cold, there's water everywhere, you're trying to slice your way through the field while having a huge spray coming at you. What was it like from a driver's perspective?
Wanted to keep the car clean and not have any collisions. I didn't want to have any unplanned pit stops, you know, so kind of did a pit start just to save a little bit of extra fuel. And then just take freebies as they came. Before I knew it, I was in like 6th or 7th place or something like that. So I was like, okay, I'll just keep riding this wave, you know. And then as it went on, it became more strategic. And I wanted to try to stay out that extra lap or two just to see finally the dry line would start to open up a little bit more. But it was still too questionable on the first pit stop. So I was like, well, I'm going to run the wets until I'm ready to actually come in and not need to stop again. So I figured by that point in time it'd be good, and it was still kind of borderline, as you saw a couple of spins and some other people having spins and stuff.
And game plan heading into the next round, now that you managed to get yourself onto the podium yet again, now thinking, right, I've got to carry this momentum, I got to score the points. What is your game plan heading in towards Nürburgring?
It'll be an EOL start for the top 3 pros, top 3 AM, so you'll have to see us slice and dice up through the field again. So maybe a case of swapping around some pit strategy, or just seeing where we can maybe get some good runs on some folks. It's just gonna have to take it as we're given, you know. It's gonna be hard to get around some guys, especially if they're racing their other folks that's in their class too, or even in the pro versus AM. It doesn't matter how you're doing. You just got to race hard. And some people will give, some will take, and don't want to cause any wrecks for people, because then there's no finishing then. So it'll be interesting. That's going to be the green hell.
Well, it's going to be great to see you, and we look forward to having a chat to you after the race as you're looking to carry the momentum in the podium standings. But with that being said, before we let you go, anything you want to say to all the drivers here at the Pony Express GT3 League, to all the teams as well, and most importantly, to all the fans out in the virtual grandstands here at the Racer Nexus?
yeah, definitely glad all the drivers showed up tonight despite it being wet. Hopefully a bunch show up next week with the NERB and being right on line with NERB 24 going on and everything. Everyone should be pretty fresh in their mind there, so we should see some pretty good pace, pretty good consistency, those that are doing the 24 anyway. And then those that aren't, why aren't you? Come on, get out there and learn the damn track. So anyway, and then of course our friends and family that support us in these endeavors, especially my wife and stuff. She knows I like the league race and do the other special events and things like that. So I'm up here a few nights a week and try to balance the home life out the rest of the time.
Well, an absolutely great one and difficult to balance, but well done on getting yourself up into the podium yet again. Nick Turrell in his Porsche able to hold on to third place. So with that being said, let's bring in first of our GTDM and my personal favorite, the Acura NSX, which now even Rob is calling it a Honda because it's slowly getting that process up and going. Brad, welcome to the commentary box. How are you feeling after that? You managed to get the NSX up to the podium and had a stellar drive, just keeping it clean and not fighting out against anyone.
Yeah, that's about all I could do was just keep it clean in the rain. I was gonna change to dry tires, but I didn't. I'm glad I didn't. They were pretty burnt by the end of the race, so I was struggling to get around the corners. It's getting a lot of understeer. Yeah, I felt kind of alone in that race. I just had a huge cushion and just cruised.
Well, with that being said, how was the car out there? Being the only Honda in the field, well, the only Acura in the field, what gives you a bit more confidence in this car compared to your competitors driving Porsches, Mercedes, Ferraris? You picked something that's a little different from others. What gave you the confidence to handle the wet weather and to push that a little bit harder?
I like the way the car handles, to be honest. And I just wanted to do something different, you know? And it seemed to handle pretty good in the rain.
Fair enough, fair enough, fair enough. And now game plan heading into the rest of the championship as we managed to get round 7 out of the way. We're looking towards round 8. We're heading out to Germany. What is your game plan to carry this momentum forward now that you've scored the victory in the GTD AM class?
Oh, it's to win next week, of course. I just did the 4-hour NEC over the weekend solo, and I won it. But that was with a Ferrari because they don't let you race the Honda on the official NEC. But I think my my lap times will be really good on Nürburgring. It's one of my favorite tracks.
So in other words, we have to put in a protest to iRacing to make sure the Honda gets to race on the NEC.
Yes.
Okay, I'm with you on that one. Absolutely with you on that one. That's going to be the game plan. But Brad, absolutely incredible stuff. Before we let you go to enjoy the celebration, and congratulations on your win in the 4-hour solo. Not an easy thing to do. But anything you would like to say to the drivers, to the teams, to the partners here at Pony Express, also to all out on the virtual grandstands here at the Race and Nexus?
Thanks to all the guys, you know, that race in Pony Express. Like I said, it's a really, really nice gentleman's league. Thank you to you guys for the great broadcast. And thank you to my, wife and family for putting up with my my sim racing habit.
Absolutely well done. It's always a big shout out to the partners that keep us going and putting up with our madness. Promise it's well worth it over time. Thank you very much for joining us, Brad. Absolutely wonderful to have you, and thank you for campaigning one of the best cars in the sim, the Acura NSX.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Have a good night. I think if it wasn't for the Acura, I would go for the BMW Z3 of old. But with that being said, let's have a chat to Stephen. And Rob, you managed to get hold of Stephen, who came second place in the GTD AM class.
Yeah, Stephen, congrats on second place in AM class with the Corvette. It looks like the Porsches and the Mercedes were really strong here tonight in the wet weather. How were things behind the wheel of that Corvette for you?
Well, it was tricky. I didn't get any laps in this week, so when I loaded the session and saw it was raining, I was kind of like, oh crap, this is going to be interesting. I didn't really get a clean lap around the track before the end of, well, I mean, I did before the end of or at least during qualifying, but I had to dirty the lap with the EOL. But yeah, it was just a matter of letting off early, braking early, making sure it didn't get loose. And I ended up not really spinning until later in the race, but I only really got around one time. Didn't hit anything, didn't hit anyone. So I was pretty happy with that.
Now, have you had much experience in the rain? I know there's some drivers who will do anything but drive in the rain. They see a wet session, they turn around, run the other way. Are you one of those fans of the rain? Are you kind of impartial to it, or you just outright hate it?
I'm a little impartial to it. It doesn't matter to me. I will do it. Most of the special events that I've run in the past 2 years, they've all ended up having rain during my stints, so I've kind of just had to get used to it. You just really have to back off a little bit early, start braking a little bit early, lift and coast. It really helps with fuel saving as well. So I've learned a little bit of that actually from Nick Terrell, doing a couple of special events with him. So most of the rain has been in special events, so they were long time, or at least driving in the rain for a long period of time. So I'm comfortable with it. It's not my favorite, but you got to do what you got to do.
So how are you feeling heading to the Nord's 24-hour layout for the next race, round 8, as we start to head to the back end of the season? Feeling competitive in the Corvette? Can you get yourself another podium finish?
Well, you know, I don't really go into them thinking that I'm going to, but you know, just want to try to stay clean, finish the race is the biggest thing. Nords is not really my strong or my expertise, but I'll probably try to put some time in it this week. I have been running a couple of the Nord series this season, so I'm getting a little bit more comfortable with the track, remembering the layout, remembering the kilometer boards for kind of the major stuff, major turns. It's going to be a challenging one for sure. It'll take a lot to get a podium, I think, but you know, if I keep it clean, keep it off the wall, keep it out of other drivers, you know, I got a shot.
Well, best luck to you next week at Nürburgring. Before we let you go here, Steven, anybody want to shout out at home cheering you on?
Yeah, all the friends over at the Grid Discord. Appreciate you watching.
Well, excellent stuff. Take care, Steven, and best of luck battling as the season starts to come to a close.
Thank you.
Well, Steven, looks like that was all of our podium finishers we have in the waiting room. Looks like we have Stephen Charsley in there too as well. I don't know if you want to have a quick chat with him or not, but otherwise, it looks like we've talked to all of our podium finishers here in the wet race at Road America.
It's been an absolute great one, I think, and our drivers going to be going and trying to drive themselves after this incredible race, but also championships flipped on its head. Rob, we've seen it now from street circuit to classics. Now we're heading on to one of the hardest circuits in the calendar, heading out to Germany. I think it's all about who can get that last little mad dash down to the wire, who's going to really push it to the limit, and ultimately who's going to stand on the top as we head towards round 8 of the championship. It's getting closer and closer to the end here at the Pony Express, and drivers are now looking for every little point and utilize every little advantage. We're in for an exciting one, and I think for our viewers out there, it's going to be one not to miss at all. You got to make sure that you hit the subscribe button along with the bell notification icon, and also just let us know what was your favorite part to the race as well down in the comments.
Yeah, if this wasn't a race of attrition, definitely next week at the Nordschleife is going to be a race of even more attrition. Stephen, whole different set of circumstances versus the rain here. I suspect it'll probably be a dry race next week, but you never know what will present itself until we get into the session. But before we go here, we should mention if you're interested in joining the league, you can find the description the Discord link in the description of the video for the Pony Express Sim Racing League. You can join in their GT3 challenge. It is free to join. They do take donations to help cover the costs and broadcasting. So there is that if you're looking for some fun Monday night GT3 action. And then trackcams22.com providing all of our camera action here this evening. Trackcams for Gourmets simulating IndyCar, WEC, NASCAR, Formula One, all those camera action or camera angles you would see on the broadcast. He goes out of his way, puts a lot of time and effort into mimicking those. And then Apex Sim Racing, find yourself 5% discount code in the description of the video. Use that to get anything or 5% off anything in store from their own brand of Apex Sim Racing accessories to brands from like SimMagic, SimQ, Moza, as well as PC systems and chassis to get yourself on track out here racing with the rest of the Pony Express Sim Racing drivers. Well, Steven, you mentioned it. End of the season creeping up on these drivers. Final preparations for championship points ahead. It was a great one here at Road America, one of my favorite tracks. Always love doing a race here. Looking forward to heading to Nordschleife next week. But for myself, Rob Campbell, in the booth with me, Steven Kernick, this has been Racers Nexus. We'll catch you next time. Bye for now.